It's funny. When I saw it was Blumhouse, I thought, I can't believe Bob has picked a horror movie. He has come so far. So I was kind of disappointed, but then...
Especially with that title.
Yeah. Live and Kicking is perfect.
We're back.
Okay, we're back. And now I think we're going to do Bob.
Yes, Alive and Kicking is the name of the movie. It's a documentary about swing dancing, and here's a clip.
Swing dancing is the pursuit of happiness. And I saw this and I was like, I have to do that. I have to do that.
This dance was born with the Black community.
Louis Armstrong gave us the sound. Basie gave us the beat. And Duke Ellington told you, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing.
I'm a swing dancer because I fell in love with it.
I stopped dancing when my feet don't move anymore.
Most importantly, it's the music that keeps me coming back, so I'll always dance.
Wouldn't you rather have somebody say dance with me instead of Facebook me?
It is like having sex when you're on the amphetamine.
I can't even tell you how many students I've had tell me I got off my antidepressants. I lost my job and this got me through it.
I started swing dancing after my first tour in Iraq. And I remember thinking, wow, this is why I made it, for moments like this.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. To dance with people is the way to make the world a better place.
How can you listen to that music and not pat your foot?
I look around and there's like 200 people and there's not a cell phone out.
They dance nonstop. They all pretty much just move in the ballroom.
It's pure joy set to music.
Okay, so I was born in 1943, and my mother was a Benny Goodman fan, so swing music was a part of my life from the very beginning. Swing dancing, they keep referring specifically to the Lindy Hop. The Lindy, what was called the Lindy to me when I was like even in high school was just meant it was fast dancing. It was slow dancing, or you do the Lindy, and it was not as specific as this is. But first of all, I have to do a disclosure thing here. After I decided I wanted to watch this movie, I found out that the director is somebody that I know. But I think I managed to keep that out of this because I just loved this movie so much. And I got to put my glasses on because I'm going to be reading stuff. So the thing that really hooked me into this movie, there's a sequence early on with a couple walking their dogs. And they're making the point that people don't talk to each other anymore. Here's this couple together, walking their dogs together, and they're like this with their cell phones. And I just thought, I hate when I see that. And I hate the lack of communication between people. And the fact that, we're all here together. And this movie made so much of an impact on me in terms of just people the joy of connecting with another human being and doing it in the format of this. I mean, I'm a big dance fan. As I was telling Susie earlier, a few years ago, I was with a group of people, and I was talking about how it's like my body's aging and I can't move the way I used to. And I said, I used to be able to do moves like James Brown. And then I thought for a second, I said, I can still do those moves, but it really looks ridiculous now. and that was
to the ground. You really fall to the ground.
And this was like a few years ago. I can't even do those moves like James Brown anymore at all. But I still love it. And inside me, I'm dancing. Inside me, I want to dance. And there's okay. This is swing dancing itself is about communication and trust. You have to completely know that the person who's going to throw you in the air is going to be there to catch you. Like they said at one point, well, what it is when you're with swing dancing, when you go to dance in competitions, anything like that, you don't know what the music's going to be. You have to improvise when the music comes on. So that to me is an electrifying thought. It's so frightening but you know that it's going to be okay because you're doing it with someone who you work with, practice with, dance with, connect with all the time. Not just doing the dancing, but just in conversation and everything. It's understanding that there is always going to be someone there for you. And I think that's such an important message to get out to the world in this day and age, because we've been so isolated, that it's just crazy. So the three main groups, the five main characters in this are Evita, who's a young woman who's discovered her life through dancing. I think at some point, like now she teaches dancing. I think at points she was talking about what she did before, but once she discovered this swing dancing, she gave herself over to it, and she travels the world doing it, giving classes and stuff. Then there's two Swedish women,
all right,
who are called the Decavita sisters, but they're not actually. Well, actually, they are legally sisters, but they're not blood sisters. They talk about it that they actually went. They became so close with this, and it's not a gay thing. They sort of underline that. It's just a matter that they feel like sisters. They're so connected that they feel like sisters, and when you see them dancing together, you understand why. But they took that degree of going and having themselves legally. They made up this name Decavita. They're Swedish. I don't know what their actual last names were.
I thought that was weird that they did that. It's like
they adopted each other's sisters.
Yeah, and they did that, and that story has like a really incredible arc to it. And then the other main characters are a couple named Steve and Shanzi.
I like them.
And they're really lovable characters. That's the thing. I loved everybody in this movie. They all were so wonderful, and all of the clips of the older dancers and stuff, and that which brings into play one of the main things about this, and it's discussed. They address it in here. This was music that was created, or the dancing came out of the Depression. It was like people needed to be able to express themselves and to find some joy.
Right.
And it started on the street corners of Harlem. So basically, it was created by Black people who don't do it that much anymore. It's like now pretty much almost all exclusively white people. And in fact, they pointed out at one point that like one of the biggest centers of swing dancing in the world now is in South Korea. So it's people from all over the world are together. And it's not like that Black people don't have anything to do with it, but in fact, they have some of the people who really did create this form who were still alive in their 90s were in this movie.
And still dance.
And still dancing, yes. Mm-hmm. Well, Frankie Manning said, he can't dance anymore, but he was 96 when he died, which was like, I would think, just while this movie was being made. But they had you see some of them are still dancing. And they had some clips from a movie from the 40s called Hell's A-Poppin', and the clips are available on YouTube. I had seen these very clips before. And this is dangerous dancing. I mean, they're flinging each other. And some of the time, they're not just flinging each other and then catching them; they're just flinging them. And they're so into it that they just come out of it. It's like watching. It's like going to the circus almost, and it's electrifying to see. So it's a matter of trust your dancers, and they'll give you stories. Is what this movie's all about. Also, these are sort of old-fashioned values, and I, as being an older person, I kind of like that. It's like it's loyalty, it's trust, it's just being. It's getting into the music and saying it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are. It doesn't matter all that stuff. Right. In fact, at one point, they talk about how there's a period where everything became so ridiculously insignificant, and they're showing you the Beatles, Elvis, JFK, Martin Luther King, and saying, we know that's not insignificant, but in terms of this kind of dancing, it is, because it's about issues, and this dancing's not about issues. It's about dance with your partner. And then they bring in the Avalon Ballroom, which they say it's like a cathedral, and you can see that. I've always wanted to go there. This is on Catalina Island, and I've never been out there in all the time I've lived here. But I say, I've always wanted to go there. And then when you see the way they film it, it's like you are entering a cathedral. And at one point, one of the guys is talking about how when they did this first dance thing there, one of the employees there said, when they were leaving, he said, "The lady enjoyed your show." And he said, "What do you mean, what lady?" And he says, "The ballroom. The ballroom is the lady." And the ballroom was really happy with what you were doing here. And I'm with that all the way. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, they did. It was pointed out that the Savoy Ballroom, which is one of the places where this started up in Harlem, the Savoy Ballroom, because of this dancing, was the first place, at least in New York, where white and black dancers were dancing on the same floor at the same time together. The Cotton Club was out at that point, but the Cotton Club was just the black people were employees. It was a club for white people to come and say, "Hey, look at them." And the training, when you're looking at this, looks more like they're training boxers than they're training dancers. It's not graceful dancing. It's not erotic dancing. It's just excitement dancing. And there is one fellow, we saw a brief clip of him in the film, who's a guy who was in Iraq. He was a soldier in Iraq. And he came back and he's saying this thing. He couldn't relate to people when he came back. He wanted to kill himself. And then he discovered dancing, and it gave his life a purpose. And he goes to all these things now. In fact, here's a quote. It says, "If it takes me the rest of my life, I'm going to learn how to do that. It gave me a reason to live." And okay, yeah, the rest of this stuff, let me give somebody else a chance to talk. Susan, why don't you put the Scotch tape on my mouth?
Yeah, okay, so another title of the movie could have been Therapy of Dance.
That's true.
Very much so, yeah.
That could also be another title. It really didn't tell me much about this dance is really almost like gymnastics.
Yeah.
So they really didn't tell me much about how nobody just walks in and does that. So I imagine you have to slowly do a lot of these things, but it really that was not the point of this movie. It didn't give me the technical parts of how to do this. We follow about 7 couples, I'd say, maybe, yeah.
Just 2 and 1.
Okay, what I found the most interesting about the movie was the relationships.
Yeah.
Because these relationships, they're lifetime relationships, but they're not romantic relationships most of the time. In fact, I used to do salsa dancing, and one thing that I used to love when you go to a salsa dance, she said the same thing. It's like, you dance with everybody.
Yeah.
You dance with everybody. It's not a commitment. And in fact, it's
just
not,
a dance.
And it's expected that you just go from one person to another person and having fun. She said the same thing about this. Is you just dance with everybody. When you go to you dance. That's what you do.
It's like hitting the basketball courts in the public park.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like playing hoops with somebody. It's not a lifetime commitment. It's just a fun thing that you do with these people. But these are kind of professional swing dancers. They kind of make a life of it. And what I did find interesting was okay, you were mentioning the 2 women, what's their names?
This is the Cavita sisters.
The Cavita sisters. And I thought, they must be a gay couple, right?
That's what I thought.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But then she said something about her husband. And this one, the other one of the other dance couples.
Vinny Barbarini.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Steve and Sean, what was her name?
He started to find a relationship with her.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't switch dance partners. There's nothing.
No.
It's so.
They had a weekend together, as she puts it.
Yes, but it's kind of like the partner is forever because you just work in that level of dancing. You're not just gonna. It's so much. In a way, it's so much more than that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because the level of trust, the level of, in a sense, not having a romantic relationships gives you a distance that doesn't. I just like that. I was like, right. God, I just love this relationship thing going on here.
The passion is not about the passion is not about sex. It's about the dance.
Yeah, it's a connection to the art.
Yeah, yes,
you're very pure form.
Yes, and but it's kind of like even in today, you would be. What do you call that? The word would be.
Sounds like 2 syllables.
No, it's kind of like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like, no, they have these kind of relationships. It's the other ones change and happen or go all the way also, but they have nothing to do with this one. And I just loved that. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Well,
what?
I just wanted to say, in fact, that I asked about that particular thing because Steve and Shanzi, Steve and Emily.
Steve and Shanzi are the partners when they dance.
Steve and Emily are the ones who have the date. And I said, I asked the director, I said, was that for the movie? And she said, they spent a weekend together, but they're still friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, but that didn't affect his dance partner.
Right, exactly.
Because that's who you dance with.
And they say at the opening or during the interview, it's like, no, we do not have a relationship together except dancing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Very pure form.
But it's not like a rigid thing. It's just kind of the way that it happens.
Right.
So I was fascinated, and at first I wanted it to be more technical, like how do they do that stuff, right? How do they get there, right? But
Nobody knows.
But after a while, I'm sure somebody knows. But after a while, it's really about the relationships and about the dancing and about fun. And I really liked it. I really liked it.
It's funny. When I saw it was Blumhouse, I thought, I can't believe Bob has picked a horror movie. He has come so far. So I was kind of disappointed, but then...
Especially with that title.
Like a cake, it's perfect. But I got to say, my mother taught me jitterbugging. Now, I don't know if that's the same as swing
it is.
dancing.
I think it is.
It's close. It's very close to
your mother like
that.
Benny Goodman. Our mother's like Glenn Miller.
Yeah.
Because I would say
We heard
jitterbug
Glenn
is
Miller
a
all the
result
time.
of the
Glenn
Lindy.
Miller was sweeter.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pearls. God, what is it? Like
String of Pearls. is
String
great
of
song.
Pearls. And,
One of my favorite
yeah.
songs.
And so she used to jitterbug. So I remember her teaching. Were you there? We was always in the living room. And I thought, what a fun dance. And I must have been like 7 or 8 because it was fast. And of course, at that age, everything has to be fast, right? Forward about 30 years, I'm on Los Feliz and I'm going to a club. And I notice people coming out of it are dressed so wild. I'm like, wow, she really got to put it together. And I go in and it's the Derby and it's total swing dancing. And people come up to you, do you want to dance? Do you want to dance?
Yeah.
And I was like, what? No. I'm looking at these people going, God, that looks like so much fun. But I was past the age of giving it a shot. But if I'd been younger, I would have tried to learn it. It looked, and because there's sexuality is taken out of it.
Yeah.
And it's a pure form, just dance to dance. You know, like when you're a teen and you just want to dance and some guy asks you to dance. There's nothing else. Just dance. Don't talk to me.
It was like being in a band in music.
Yeah.
You know, the
song.
relationship is the art. Yeah.
There's a place, it's either in Chatsworth or Northridge. It's a Mexican restaurant, and once a week they have swing dancing there. With and all these old people will be there. And I went there once with some friends of mine, and a lady came over and she asked me to dance. And I said, I'm kind of past the days of dancing. She said, I don't care. Get out on the floor and dance with me. And we did. We had a nice little dance. And she didn't ask. She said, thanks. She knew I wasn't lying.
Yeah. Well, that takes a lot of energy. But, you know, but I loved it because I loved it only kept down to 3 stories. I like when they keep it to a certain number so you can get more involved. I didn't know it was still big. And even 30 years ago, I didn't know it was still big. And it kind of surprised me. But I love the outfits. They're great clothes. I love the energy, and I love the enthusiasm of everybody. And this is what the movie showed, all 3.
Okay, fine.
Yes. Well, for me, I wasn't really crazy about the documentary. It did bring up some really nice points, though, because the thing that struck me, I said, I wish the documentary was about this, is how this started in Harlem back in the day, and it was predominantly them, you know, Black African Americans, Black people, however you want to say, doing this dance, owning it. In fact, I remember seeing when breakdancing came out,
Right.
they did an actual historical thing about going back to this, and they showed people doing this Lindy Hop, and I'll never forget. I think they referred to it as break your neck dancing because of the way they were flipping people, right? So it's like, oh, and I never knew the Lindy Hop, except I'm assuming it was named after Charles Lindbergh, for example. I knew it was a certain time period at that time, right, of when it happened. But I didn't know the extent of culturally what it meant. Whereas now it was so amazing when you saw like this Frankie Manning and Norma Miller, the people who are like in the day of that, right? The fact that, oh, how funny. They're talking about how this was like, oh, if you're black, you knew how to Lindy Hop, period, right? This was the hottest dances, et cetera, right? And that now, when you see the crowds, especially in this documentary, there's hardly any black people, which is why I like the that teacher, like you said, the Evita character, when she says, oh yeah, now we even go to Harlem and teach black kids. We want them to show their heritage.
Right.
This is the dance we love. This is the dance that your community had started. So I that's the kind of stuff I really sort of admired in this thing. And like I said, talking to the older dancers, when they mentioned, I think that Frankie Manning, Bob and I, we didn't quite disagree about this, but I could have sworn that in the documentary he said he did 42 weekends of teaching people to dance at the age of 85.
Yes, he did.
Which I thought he said he was 74 when he did that. But
I literally just thinking, I couldn't do that now. I'm 63. I couldn't do that now. I couldn't do anything for 42 weekends.
You're not a dancer. He's
well,
been a dancer his whole life.
But the thing is, I've never sort of known a passion like that either. See, and that's what I think, ultimately, if you want to know about passion, that's what this movie's about. This movie is all about passion, which is why I said it has nothing to do with sexuality of this. It has to do with the dance. And that's the most important thing, I think, because even I think they quote Frankie Manning saying something like, there would be no wars if everyone just got together and danced. Yes. And I sort of really agree. So that's what I like, is how societally you're showing that an art form, just dancing. One of the women mentioned, once you dance with somebody, you're not going to argue with them. Yeah, it's like, no, you just want to have fun. Doing this dance specifically, though. Right. Okay, that's what I thought was important. For me personally, though, because being in the video store at that time period, when all of a sudden, I just remember it was like maybe 2 years after Swing Kids came out, all of a sudden, all these young kids, and I'm talking teenagers, do you have Swing Kids? Do you have Swing Kids? They kept asking. And at this time, we have like 2 copies left. They're constantly going out. And I was wondering what was going on. And this movie sort of really explained it. When she said in the 90s, when it was Swing Kids, Swingers, and then the Gap commercial, right? And see, the thing is, the Gap commercial, I claimed, I watched that and said, they're doing that because of Swing Kids. Literally because so many, that came like a year after, I think, when everyone kept asking for those, they were even asking for instructionals how to do swing dance, right? The funny thing is, I never learned the dance, but I always loved the music. So the music, I'm there. When you have that music, and they're right. When somebody says, how can you not start tapping your music or your foot when you hear that music? Yeah. And I think that's so true because I love swing music. And but I never got into that type of dancing. And I have to admit, it's probably because of my laziness, because it's way too physical. You have to be athletic to do these type of dances. Yes. In my opinion, you really do. Because like they said, you just don't stop dancing. Once you start, you're just there. And that's why I like the fact that they even mentioned the community, like Bob was saying. You go to one of those, oh, you want to dance? You want to dance? You might not get asked again, but everybody just wants to be there to dance. It doesn't matter if it's a Lindy Hop. It doesn't matter if it's salsa dancing. Whatever people are into, that's what they want to do. And when it comes to dancing, I think that's very true. You just want to get up there and sway to the music or dance to the music.
And plus you take out that hookup energy, which is very safe for everybody.
That's the funny part, because I wonder how true that is after seeing Steve and Emily get together.
Well,
right?
I was going to say, but they're in the same business. But as a person who went to salsa clubs, right? Never.
Okay.
I saw a friend that used to say a joke when he says, hello, Mrs., would you like to dance the lambada? You're welcome, miss.
See, and that's another dance that I remember when that came out. It's like, what the hell is that? It's supposed to be this sexy dance kind of thing. It's like, I never understood that one. But what I will say this about is that I disagree. I think it is a sexy dance. They show where they do the swing dancing with the sexiness involved, where it's all about movements. And that's what I thought, see, they're really encompassing what this music and dance sort of had done for them. Now, I can honestly say I wouldn't call that quite Lindy Hop, but it was of the time period and the dance to that swing music.
I've never heard that term before. I've heard
What?
I know the
I've heard
Lindy
it
Hop.
before, but I didn't say it wasn't. I didn't say it wasn't sexy. I said it wasn't erotic.
Oh, well, see, that's
the tango's erotic.
Well, no, that's saying I think it can be erotic because again, the way you move with the music. That's I guess
too
that's
much
maybe
tossing people around for it to be
well,
erotic.
no,
No, there
that's
are
the Lindy
erotic
Hop part.
parts. There are-
But you saw when they were doing like I call the slower swing
what it
dancing,
is,
right?
they call
That
it-
was
It's got
really
a
amazing.
sexiness. It's
Yeah,
got a
very
sexiness.
much and
There's no-
erotic too because
I'm not
they're
saying that-
matching body for
But you
body.
don't
They're
notice
just so
it.
fluid.
I'm not
They
saying
throw you
that. I'm not saying that there's no sexuality in
Oh, no,
involved
no.
in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
dancing,
Yeah,
which
right.
there is.
Yeah, of course.
But you're not. You okay? If there was that hookup energy, you may
Right.
be intimidated, or you might be.
Well,
since there's none of
it
that,
frees
you
you
are
up.
No,
free. You
exactly.
are free to express yourself with no danger.
Right.
Right.
Because that's actually the awkward part. Because like it's sort of
Yeah.
like the kissing part. It's like, oh, do I go in? Do I kiss her? You know, you're so worried about that, you're not paying attention to the dancing.
Right.
They're all pure dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least that's what the documentary was showing to me.
Yeah.
It's like, that kind
Yeah,
of
it's
stuff.
like you're responsible for the safety of another human being.
Or not, whatever.
But so those are the points I really enjoyed it. But I just thought it was great to have like the two veterans from the time period and really showing you what this meant. But I wish to God that for some reason it's like the African American can come back and take that back, saying,
Why?
Only because I thought this is your heritage. This is part of the heritage of the art that I understand. You always want to go and do new things. Like I said, breakdancing. Breakdancing was huge, but that was also among usually urban Black American youth.
Young.
And then all of a sudden, young.
I think
young.
not a black and white thing.
then,
Young.
And then
Young.
it came to the mainstream. So it's like wow, they're always their culture's
It was
always being
also
appropriated
male.
to the
I
mainstream.
wonder
also
why
male.
it went away.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And
Well,
male.
very male. Yeah, very much so.
Also,
yeah.
also, this movie was made in 2016, so we don't know what the status is now. There could be more. And
No,
I think
I'm
they
sure
were right
it
when
is. Yeah.
when she was like nailing it that this was brought about this renaissance through swing kids and swingers.
Oh no, very much so. Even I
Which
could, like I
was
said,
obviously
being
it was
at the
a very
video
white
store
movie.
and having people ask me these questions, especially at my favorite, do you have swing dance videos?
Wow.
Right? It's like, okay, this is something I'm not getting. What's
also-
happening? And that's when she mentions about the creating the Camp Hollywood. Once they did that, it's like, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, I
that
didn't know either.
everyone was getting into it because. Even I remember, Life magazine Pictures of the Year. I think you had a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio at the Derby dancing, swing dancing.
But that was the hip
showing
place
you
to
how
go.
big it was. Well, like you said, that was actually in the LA area.
Right.
But I would say, if you love dancing, see this.
Yeah.
If you really want to see what, and again, it's the same thing as me. This is such a nerd group. They just are so into that. And I love the fact that, we become lifelong friends because once you're into it, you're in. I said, that's the nerd quality. Nerd used to be a negative thing. It's like, no, be a nerd. When you like something, you're going to meet other people and you just bond.
Like Comic-Con.
Exactly.
Like
you
what?
just bond.
Comic-Con.
Okay,
Yeah.
Joe.
And cosplay.
Yeah.
I enjoy documentary too. I like documentaries because you learn stuff. I mean, I didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah, damn it,
Yeah,
we do.
exactly. One thing I thought is, you're right. I think that I wish they were also, like you said, they were kind of more into the whole dancing. What happened to it with the Black community? But I think that it actually evolves. To me, it went from that to I don't know if they came up with the whole disco dance or not, or the group. But then there's break dancing. That was a big the urban areas. And to me, it's just they're evolving their dance. It just keeps changing. Then now it's hip hop, and they're still doing so. It's almost like with the band they're done that. Now we're gonna do the next thing that you guys are gonna pick up, and
Well,
so it just keeps evolving.
I actually agree with that because that's the only thing I thought about the African American community. It's like, no, they're constantly coming up with these new things. But one of the things that the white community came up with, in my opinion, has been that sort of I call it electro swing, or it's a new
The
kind
electric dance is a country
yeah.
and western. The electric Kool-Aid.
Hey, we
Right,
did
I love
the
it, yeah.
frog.
They do the line dancing. They do the line dancing.
But not like so much line dancing, but the fact that the
I know what you
African
mean, that
communities,
is-
they're constantly coming up with the new way of dancing.
In fact, with
now.
music,
Yeah.
when that you think, the 80s, the 90s, there was a renaissance of that. And
Right.
you had those two movies, but there was also in a commercial, but there were also bands like Cherry Poppin' Daddies, and I think it was Big Bag Voodoo Daddy.
Yeah,
There
Big
was just
Bad
a
Voodoo
lot of
Daddy,
big.
you're right.
I was like, that time was going, what's going on with this?
Or
these
even
swing bands coming in?
Brian Seltzer
Well, Brian Seltzer had also
became a
Setzer.
swing
Setzer.
Brian
or Setzer. I'm sorry.
Gerald Leonard
Sorry.
Zina.
Yeah, that was after he
17
worked for
horns.
CNN. He went to play.
Right.
So yeah, and I was going, what is this? All this revival of swing music with the bands.
Well, it was a revival of a lot of stuff because like Pink Martini is kind of a revival.
Yes,
too,
very
you
much
know,
so.
But
Pink
not
Martini
not
was a
swing
great one.
specific, yeah.
But of that time period, yeah.
Yeah, and Pink Martini, I think, still plays like New Year's Eve at the Disney Hall every year.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh wow, they're
So-
one of my favorites. Yeah.
So one thing I noticed is how dangerous that was. Because I've been going, so someone's gonna crack a neck. Or every time they throw me in the air, someone's gonna crack a neck. Someone's gonna crack a neck. It's just so dangerous. It reminded me of figure skating a little bit.
Very
Someone's
much
out there
so.
doing-
Yes.
throwing each other around
Figure
and
skating
busting.
seems mild compared to this dancing.
The erotic dance that you're talking about, they said they called it the blues. That they were doing the blues
Yes.
dance
Right.
already.
Yeah.
So it basically it's almost to me it's like a slowed down
Right.
version of that dance.
Exactly.
A little more, a little more sexy, a little more erotic.
Well,
That's-
there's even a sequence early on when you see Evita in a like in this black dress, and she does a real high kick, and that's like more of a slow moving, sexy thing.
She says it's the blues and that
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
She said it's the
the blues, they call it the blues.
Right.
For that.
Do you remember in Dirty Dancing
Yes.
when they all went to where the dancers were?
Right.
That to me was the sexy dance.
Yeah.
It's called
Right.
something, but I don't
It was called
know.
Dirty Dancing.
Dirty dancing.
So,
Okay.
Another
Oh,
thing,
well, hold on. Are you
Go
done?
ahead.
No.
Okay, because I did say I was going to say this before. I owe Blumhouse an apology.
Yes, you do.
When we started out, I just I watched to make sure. I was begging them to stop,
You're welcome, Bob.
and it was like I was like I was not seeing past the horror movies they were making. I realized since then they made one of my favorite movies in recent years, and that's Whiplash.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great movie, although it is a monster movie in its way.
Yes.
But
it is.
they also made this, and I did ask the director about this. I said, how did this become a Blumhouse movie? And she said, I called Jason up, and I said, this is as far away from any Blumhouse movie as possible. And he said, we'll do it.
great.
Well,
Wow.
George, have you
Oh,
finished?
well, the last point I was going to make is that there's a one scene where how the dancers, when they're all in how amazing the shape they are. Like there's a one scene where there's a line of Koreans and they want to dance with her, and then I found out she was like, it might have been like either 80 or something, 79 or 78. And she was like, I thought she was like 60. I mean, she's moving around. And I go, but we knew a dancer too, Sunny, who was.
Yeah, Sunny would have
dancers-
loved this movie. She's a dancer.
I mean, dancers, people who dance professional,
She's dead,
the whole
but-
life,
Yeah.
literally, they go to the grave in great shape. It's
No, isn't it amazing? Yeah. If
Yeah.
they love dancing, they do it all their life.
Yeah,
And
like-
that's what I said.
And they
That,
always
that
stay in
Frankie
shape. I don't
Manning
know
and
how
that
they do
Norma
it.
Miller, the way they were moving.
They were
it's like-
both in their 90s.
it's
Frankie
amazing.
Manning was, I think, up pretty much close to the end, still working as a postal employee.
yeah.
And you see him doing some dance moves, and it's still like, I couldn't do those moves. But yeah, that's my last point. Yeah.
Shall we make our?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that'll be me. So I'll give it okay, I'm not a big documentary person, so I'll give it but I thought it was good. 7.
I give it a 7, but I thought it was a really great documentary.
Yeah, I gave this a 5.
I gave it as 8. That was a good documentary.
I'll go with the 10 because it just
There you
really,
go.
every time I watch it, it makes me feel better.
Okay. So
We'll be back.
okay, we'll be back.